This is another archival upload of some of my previous mix critique videos. I apologize for the vertical format that this video is about to switch to. This is 326 to 330. This mix was sent in by Jeremy.
Okay, class. Today we're going to learn about animals on the farm and the sounds they make. Who knows what a duck says? Eddie.
A duck says quack, quack.
Very good.
Is there a song in here somewhere? It's funny, but it's a weird intro.
Now, who can tell me what a pig says? Little Johnny.
All right, this is completely ridiculous and it's hilarious, but anyway, guitars are a little harsh. You got a little too much upper mid information going on, probably about like 3K-ish, probably bring that down a little bit. Biggest issue so far is balance. The drums are way too far in the background. Like, this was clearly mixed by a guitarist. Even the vocals were being drowned out by the guitar, which clearly the whole point of the song was setting up the pig squeals and then you drowned them out with the guitar. Like, that's the biggest thing. The overall tones sound okay. The drums I feel like could probably be a little punchier and like bigger overall, but the biggest thing so far is just the balance. You got to rebalance those faders because you got the guitars way too loud and then everything else is getting drowned out by them. Come on, pig! Piggy! Come on, piggy! That was probably the funniest submission that I've ever gotten. So good job there. But yeah, guitars are a little harsh. Cut the high mids a little bit, rebalance things, because that's the biggest problem. The guitars are drowning out everything. The drums are not forward enough. Drums probably need to be compressed a little bit more, or at the very least, they need to have the attack time on the compression slowed down a little bit, because it sounds like the transients are kind of getting stamped out a bit. But the biggest problem is the balance, so definitely work on that. This mix was sent in by Michael. The synths in the intro sounded really good when all the instruments kick in. Drums are too loud compared to everything else. They're kind of overpowering. I would definitely back those down a little bit. Guitars could probably come up a little bit actually, and the guitars are actually too dark, which is surprising. That's very rarely an issue here, but I definitely want a little bit more top end out of the guitar. That'll probably be helped a little bit by bringing them up in volume, but as of right now, everything just sounds a little bit too dark overall, and it's mainly the guitars. You might also need to clean up the low mids in the bass. That might be contributing to some mud and making things feel darker. But yeah, drums are too loud, guitar's too quiet, and the guitar definitely needs some more top end. All right, the clean guitars here sound pretty good. They have a good amount of top end. They could probably come up maybe just a little bit, but compared to the distorted guitars earlier, there's a good amount of top end in these clean guitars here. You know, honestly, it might not even be a lack of top end in the guitar. They could probably come up in volume still, but I think you just have too much low end overall. It's probably mostly that synth bass in the background and the kick drum, but it feels like you have a whole lot of sub-frequency information and low end information. It might be a little muddy in like the 200 to 400 hertz range, but it's really more below 200, and even more than that, like below 100 is just really overpowering, and it's making everything feel dark. It doesn't feel like boomy or anything. It's just the amount of low end there just makes the overall mix feel a lot darker. And so yeah, like definitely find a way to control that low end more. You're probably not even able to hear it on whatever you're working on, would be my best guess, is that you're like boosting low end because you can't hear it and you're trying to make it so that you can hear it. Monitor on headphones or something, just something with better low end response, and rein that low end in. Other than that, like, it sounds pretty good. So yeah, bring the guitars up a little, maybe add a little bit of top end to the guitars, maybe clean up the low mids a little bit, but definitely control the low end and the subs and all that, because that's definitely overpowering and making the whole mix feel dark by comparison. This mix was sent in by David.
Everything will turn out right.
All right, the drums sound pretty good, but they might be programmed. I'm just honestly basing that more than anything on how the guitar sounds. I really don't like the guitar sound. And I would assume if you know how to record drums well enough to have the drums sound this good, that you should know how to mic up a guitar as well. Drums sound pretty good. They're probably a little far in the background. Don't like the guitar tone. It's really muffled. It's really muddy. The vocals sounds kind of okay, maybe a little heavy on the low end overall. But so far my biggest issue is the balance. The drums are way too far in the back and the guitar sound.
Yet you're still wondering. It's the same thing every night.
This is the first time in a mix critique that I switched to my other set of monitors because they have a little bit better low end response. You have a lot of sub frequency buildup, like a lot of sub frequency buildup. I'm assuming whatever you're mixing on, you probably don't have very good low end response because honestly, there's kind of overpowering low end in everything. But especially in like the sub frequencies, so we're talking like below 60 hertz, there's like a massive buildup down there. You gotta clean that up. It's gonna be difficult when you can't actually hear it on what you're listening on, but there's way too much low end information. It's making everything sound really, really dark in general. And you just end up with this like massive wall of low end that's just undefined, like muddy, washy, gross low end. You gotta clean that up.
'Cause you don't want a reason, they don't want a reason, I don't need a reason now.
Hey man, so biggest problem overall is the balance. You got to get things balanced better. Like the drums are way too far in the background. The guitar is fighting with the vocals, like which could probably be fixed if you brought the guitar down a little bit. Really don't like the guitar tone, and there's definitely way too much low end in the guitar tone and everything else, but it's noticeable in the guitar tone. It sounds like you can hear the mid-range pretty well on whatever you're mixing on, but you're clearly not hearing the sub frequencies because there's just way too much going on down there. So you got to clean that up. You got to work on your balance overall. Work on the guitar tone because I really don't like the guitar tone. It just sounds muddy and muffled and like hard to get any definition out of the guitar at all. This mix was sent in by Pablo. It sounds okay for the most part. Honestly, it sounds more like a live recording than anything. The guitars are probably a little too loud. You could probably back those down a little bit. There's definitely way too much reverb on everything or room tone. You might have actual room mics in this particular situation. Got to try to bring that room sound down a little bit. If it's artificial reverb, definitely bring that down a bit. Things are a little muddy, kind of muddled together. It's hard to get some definition out of some things. So you probably got to clean up some low end. If you have reverbs on here and you haven't EQ'd the reverbs to get rid of the low end and the low mids, definitely do that because that'll help a lot in this situation. It's a vibe. It's kind of cool. I can get behind it. The biggest thing is you got to dial back that reverb. It's just making everything really washy and muddy, and it's like we're losing all definition in everything. The drums, the close mics need to come up a little bit. The guitar needs to go down a little bit. It's starting to fight with the vocals. So a little bit of balance issues, but more than anything, it's just drowning in reverb, and that's got to be cleaned up a lot. This mix was sent in by Max. You got very little low end in this. It's honestly, it's all upper mids. Like it sounds like you've done a high pass across the whole mix starting at 300 hertz. Like there's no low end. And then it's just a bunch of different things. The guitar, the vocals, the bass, the drum, it's all fighting for that like 1 to 5K area. And just everything is super, super harsh as a result. When everything is trying to cut through, because like 1 to 5K are great places for different things to cut through. If you're trying to make everything cut through, nothing cuts through. I mean, there's kind of some low end there. Like, there's definitely a little bit down at like 100 hertz. But that means that either you just boosted the high mids way too much, or you gutted the mid-range and you're kind of left with a smiley face thing going on. It's super harsh, man. It's a little overcompressed. Like, you tried to push this a little too far, and it's seriously lacking the body of the mid-range in the mix. At the very least, you got to back the high mids down a lot so it's a little more balanced overall, but you also probably cut out a lot of the mid-range and you need to add that stuff back in.